I give you taste of my love, fact I've been standing there for you. Girl, you saw the work that I got, I could be holding back.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Danny and welcome to a new video. So I recently started this series on my channel where I sit down and discuss home buying versus renting in Atlanta. Just for a little bit of background information on me, I'm currently looking to either purchase or rent a home in 2024, but I've taken the steps necessary this year to prepare, plan, educate myself, and just really understand which option will benefit me the most. In the process, I decided to document this series as well because as much as it'll help me, I'm sure it'll help people out there too who are in my situation. So make sure to check out the first video in the series where I toured a few properties in Atlanta and I kind of introduced the series as a whole. But in regards to this video, we're just going to take the time to really dive deep and really understand the pros and cons when it comes to renting versus purchasing in Atlanta, and understanding which option will benefit you the most. You really have to understand your goals. So we're just going to sit down and really discuss what your thought process should be as you go about making your decision, and then also list out the pros and cons for each option. But yeah, if you're interested in getting to know more about the topic, then definitely keep on watching. So before you understand which option will benefit you the most between renting and buying, it's really imperative that you consider these next few topics I'm about to list in your process of making your decision, okay? So number one is understanding your financial situation as it stands, which includes your current income, your credit score, any debts you may have, and obviously using that information to then create a realistic budget for yourself as it pertains to whether or not you can afford to buy a home or you're leasing, right? All these numbers are extremely important because numbers are essentially consequences of your actions. With that being said, there's certain numbers that you might see that you're not proud of at the moment or you're extremely proud of, right? And if you're not proud of that, you can understand where you stand, see if you want to fix it, like, you know, in terms of your credit score and things like that. See if you want to take the time to fix it before starting the process of purchasing versus leasing. I believe that in order to purchase a home, you just need a 580 credit score, but I'm not a realtor. I'm not a leasing agent. This business is not my expertise, but I'm just giving you like a general list of things that you should watch out for. Okay. Number two is really important. It's just honestly understanding your long-term goals. Because this video is specific to purchasing in Atlanta, obviously if you understand that you're here temporarily, whether you're a student or maybe like a traveling nurse, or you're a nomad who just kind of likes to live in an area for a couple years and then move around, or you could be a more mature individual who's trying to plant themselves somewhere near the city, or like me, an adult who also knows they're trying to plant themselves somewhere around the city because they understand the benefits associated. So it's honestly just understanding what your long-term goals are and how long you want to be in the city, and that should definitely be factored into your decision making. The next point is in regards to personal preferences. This is just really thinking about whether or not you actually want to be a homeowner. Like, do you actually want the responsibilities associated, or do you prefer to have someone who can take care of all your amenities, someone you can call for anything really, typically like a public pool or public gym? Like, do you want to have all these amenities around you, or would you prefer to own a property and then, you know, go out and now find all these amenities in your area? You know what I mean? So these are things you should definitely consider because there are a lot of responsibilities associated with home ownership that people don't take into account. Like, do you want to mow your lawn? Do you want to take care of your plumber bill? Different things like that just should really be considered also. The next is understanding the real estate market around you. Like I said, this is specific to Atlanta, so it's really important that you take the time to talk to any friends who might have purchased a home recently and friends who might have purchased their home a few years back to compare their experiences. Speak to any real estate agents if you know any, or you can just get in contact with them to just, you know, ask questions that might be on your mind. If you are looking to purchase, this is a long-term investment, so you have to understand the risks that might be associated. So it's really important that you do all the work that you can ahead of time to make sure that the decision that you decide is something that you are happy with. So yeah, for the most part, those are the main topics that I would definitely encourage you all to think about, as well as me, of course. So yeah, now we're actually going to dive deep into comparing leasing versus renting in Atlanta and discussing the pros and cons associated with either option. So starting off with leasing, the average cost of a one bed, one bathroom apartment right now in the city of Atlanta is $1,500. Now the price has definitely increased over the years. I just moved out of Atlanta back home, and the rent that I paid previously to be living downtown, I believe it was about $1,700 base rent, and then with all fees and everything included, it ended up being about $1,850. So yeah, $1,500 is the average, but I was paying about $1,850 or so. Now with adding like gas and water and everything like that, I was paying an average of about $2,000 a month. So $1,500 is the average, but in all reality, with all these different fees and everything that you're gonna end up paying, I would always say that $2,000 is the most realistic average to give people, so they can really sit down and understand whether or not that is something that they can afford to do. So yeah, starting off with the pros, I'm gonna have a little list here, so don't mind me if I look down on my phone. But one of the obvious pros that comes with leasing an apartment is that you have the flexibility. You get to rent a property for as little as long as you want to, which makes it easier if you want to up and move, relocate, travel, whatever it may be. I know with some apartments you can even sublease, so while you're away you can have somebody paying your rent and making sure that everything is good on your end. If you're like me, I love to move, so I definitely have appreciated what the option to lease has done for me in the past. So yeah, definitely flexibility will always be number one. A second pro is that leasing typically has lower initial costs. So typically you'll only have to pay like a security deposit when you first lease, maybe like first month's rent or something like that. I know with some properties they require a security deposit first and last month's rent. Those are obviously for pricier properties, but for the most part, I know that with my most recent apartment, I just had to pay security deposit. I actually had concessions, so I think I only paid like half of my rent the first month. So there's definitely a lot of options available in terms of affordability. So that's always a benefit. And then thirdly, it's just in regards to maintenance. When you have a problem, you just call your leasing office and they're gonna come fix everything and you're good. Okay, it's included in your rent for the most part, unless they're like, you know, extreme damages. Typically they cover it. They change your air filter. If your drains are clogged, they fix that. Blinds are broken, they fix that. Heating, air conditioning doesn't work, they fix that. You even have the ability to advocate for yourself if you don't want to stay in your apartment and try to move into a different apartment in the building. So just in terms of that, you do have it accessible. You pay for it obviously through the fees that you pay to live in the property that you're living in, but it definitely ends up being more cost effective, of course. And the fourth pro on the list is that you have amenities available to you typically. My last apartment had everything that I loved, okay? It had a rooftop deck, it had a pool, it had a gym, which I loved. It had like a bike room or something like that. So all these amenities are things that are available to you. Obviously, you pay a certain fee per month for them. I think I was paying like $50, I don't know, something like $50 a month for amenities, but they are available to you. And obviously, you can find a property that has the amenities that you prefer. So I honestly love the amenities I had. So definitely a pro on my list. And then fifth on the list, the last pro is that you don't have to pay any property taxes, which definitely keeps money in your pocket. Property taxes are typically associated with home ownership. So not having that as an expense definitely keeps more money in your pocket. Okay, so now we're going to move into the cons of leasing a property. The first one is that you typically have limited control over the unit that you're renting, so you can't make any drastic changes. A lot of properties you can't paint unless you paint the wall color back when you leave. You can't do any major renovations. Essentially, the canvas that you're given is a canvas that you have to live with. You can add obviously decorations, things like that, but you can't do too much changing, which is why you have to make sure the property that you're leasing is what you want initially. And the second con is that you have rent increases that might incur when you're looking to renew your lease, and this can make a property that was once affordable not affordable to you anymore. Obviously, it just depends where you live specifically. In Atlanta, this is pretty common. However, with my most recent property, I think that my rent probably only increased by $50 if I were to re-sign my lease, and because I didn't, it wasn't something I had to worry about. But yeah, there are rent increases, but I will also say that it depends on the property that you're living in, and I will say you can also argue the terms of your lease. So if you don't want to pay the rent increases, this is something you can definitely communicate to your leasing office or landlords about, and then maybe they can make an accommodation for you. So just a tip. The third one, which is major, is that you're not getting any equity. So essentially all the money you're paying is gone. Like, you're paying the money to live in the property and you'll never see any type of ROI on that money that you're spending on a monthly basis. So this is definitely a con, especially if we're spending upwards of $24,000 a year to live somewhere. Anyone would want to see some type of appreciation, right? So definitely a major con, and it took me a long time to actually understand that, but please understand that that is something that you're really missing out on when you're just spending your money without any type of return. And then the last con is just restrictions overall. If people come over, there's probably limited parking. Certain places have noise requirements, quiet hours, amenities close at certain times. Even if you rent something and you have an event, there can only be a certain number of people. Like, there's so many rules and regulations that you do subject yourself to when you lease, but obviously they're in the terms of your lease agreement, so it's something that you do agree to doing. However, it's just not fun to know that you are very limited on things that you can do within the space that you're renting, because obviously if you're spending all that money, you would want to be able to have people over at whatever time and do the things that you want to do, but you are limited, and that's something you have to understand, because homeownership, you do have a little bit more freedom. So yeah, those are the pros and cons associated with leasing a property. So now we're going to dive into the pros and cons associated with buying a property. So the first one obviously goes back to equity. The money that you are spending on the property is going to appreciate as you're paying your mortgage. So it ends up being like a great financial investment for you, depending on obviously how long you live in the property. So yeah, definitely something to look forward to. The next pro is that you have more stability. So you're less subjected to any type of increases like you would be like in a rental property. And you know that you have this property and it's yours and you can't be evicted from it. So that security and stability, I'm sure, is a great feeling. The fourth one is that you have complete freedom. Like, this is your property. You can do whatever you want to it. Anything you hate, anything you want to fix, you can get somebody out there to fix it for you. Obviously, with some properties that you buy, there are HOA regulations. So you're not 100% free, but you do have so much more freedom than you would if you were to rent a property to just make the space that you want yours. And the last one is something I kind of mentioned earlier, but it does have investment potential. You can buy a property and then go ahead and lease it to other people so that they can pay you. And because you're the one that's setting the rate, you can potentially be making a lot of financial returns on this property. So you just have more freedom to really make the property that you're buying beneficial to you in whatever capacity you feel. And I think that's the biggest thing to understand in comparison to leasing a property. Now, the cons list are definitely real things to consider. The first one being that you have a higher initial cost when you're purchasing the property. So in comparison to leasing, where you probably have to pay a security deposit and then maybe first and last month's rent, when you're buying a property, you have a substantial down payment that you have to pay, closing costs, and then any other costs that might incur as well, maintenance costs, things like that. So that's definitely something to consider because you are paying a lot of money up front. And for obvious reasons, if you don't have that money available, then that can inhibit you, right? So the second con is that you just have less flexibility in terms of whether or not you want to relocate, move, things like that. If you buy a property and decide you want to move, you have to take the time to sell your home. And this completely inhibits your ability to just be flexible and up and go, you know, break a lease and pay whatever fees and go. Like, you have a property that is attached to your name. Like, you have to make sure that that's taken care of before you just get up and do anything else, right? So just understand it's a really big financial decision that does affect you in multiple ways. And these taxes can increase over time, which not fun, but it's something you have to pay. So that's another expense that you have to consider on top of the fact that you have to pay a huge down payment, you know, all of that. So all of these are things that you have to consider as you're making your decision and understanding whether or not it fits into your budget overall. And the last con on the list to consider are market risks associated. So real estate markets can definitely fluctuate, which can affect the value of your investment. So once again, understand the market for where it is, but definitely trying to project where the market might be will help you in your decision making overall. Can't 100% predict, of course, because there are things that can happen. Example, recessions, things of that nature. So it's just in your best interest to really make sure that you do as much research on the back end to ensure that you're at least mostly satisfied with the decision that you end up making. So yeah, you guys, that sums up the information that I want to talk to you about today, comparing leasing versus renting in Atlanta. I know this was a lot of information to kind of digest. This might have been new to some people, but this might have also been information that you've heard before. Hopefully this truly is beneficial to you as you are making your decision on how to move forward within your journey. And as I progress through my journey as well, I'll continue to upload videos, tours, just informative videos, just really anything that I feel like I'm learning so that I can share with you guys so we can kind of, you know what I'm saying, learn together. But yeah, you guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe for more content, and I cannot wait to see you guys in my next video. Bye.
I gave you taste of my love, fact I've been standing there for you. Girl, you saw the work that I got, I could be holding back